Hi friends, I'm Chelsea and I am here with my winter book recommendations. So I've been seeing a lot of these videos going around the last couple weeks, and I wanted to throw in some of my top favorite wintry, holiday, Christmassy book recs as well. I haven't actually read a lot of Christmas books, which is weird because I do love Christmas. I don't tend to read a lot of like Christmas rom-com type thing, although I've been in a mood for that lately, so I might have more to add to my list for next year. So all that to say, I don't have a lot of Christmas books specifically. I do have a couple, but mostly these are just books with winter vibes, books I think you could read any time of year, but I would choose to read them in the winter to really get the most out of the atmosphere and the experience. So yeah, most of these are just wintry recommendations overall for you to pick up over these next couple of months. And also I thought I'd be festive with my green and red. I have my Snoopy earrings here. Thought it'd be fun to get a little more festive. So I have these split up into a couple different categories, and I'm going to start with mystery thrillers, and I'm referring to my phone a little bit with some notes and Goodreads synopses. So yeah, my first category is mystery thrillers. I have 3 here. So the first one that I want to recommend is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. For these, I think I'll just read a quick little Goodreads synopsis because some of these, it's been several years since I've read them, and I do remember enjoying them, but I don't necessarily remember a ton of the plot because I read so many books. Here is a little bit of Rock, Paper, Scissors. Think you know the person you married? Think again. Things have been wrong with Mr. and Mrs. Wright for a long time. When Adam and Amelia win a weekend away to Scotland, it might just be what their marriage needs. Self-confessed workaholic and screenwriter Adam Wright has lived with face blindness his whole life. Every year, Adam's wife writes him a letter that she never lets him read until now. They both know this weekend will make or break their marriage, but they didn't randomly win this trip. One of them is lying and someone doesn't want them to live happily ever after. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of secrets. It kind of sounds a little cheesy when you're reading the synopsis, but I enjoyed it. It's set in Scotland during this winter storm. They're pretty much like snowed in, and so it definitely has kind of a creepy, spooky, isolated feel. They're in this weird house that is definitely ominous, just kind of like a domestic psychological thriller, I guess. Very atmospheric with the snowy vibes. There's a lot of great twists and definitely some unreliable characters. I think I listened to the audiobook too, and I enjoyed it. We have British accents, I think. They're from England and they visit Scotland. So definitely a fun kind of like spooky, creepy, wintry, fast-paced thriller that I recommend picking up this time of year. Next up, I've talked about this one once, I think, and this is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This is kind of your more classic murder mystery setup, like Sherlock Holmes, Agatha Christie kind of feel, and a really unique narration style. The narrator, he breaks the fourth wall a lot, so it's very meta, comments a lot on like the classic mystery tropes. So it's kind of humorous, kind of lighthearted, definitely more mystery than thriller for sure. Here's just a quick little synopsis from Goodreads. Everyone in my family has killed someone. Some of us, the high achievers, have killed more than once. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it is the truth. Some of us are good, others are bad, and some just unfortunate. I'm Ernest Cunningham, the narrator. I wish I'd killed whoever decided our family reunion should be at a ski resort, but it's a little more complicated than that. Have I killed someone? Yes, I have. Who was it? Let's get started. It just goes into their whole family, lots of drama. You kind of find out a lot of different details throughout the book of all of the family members, all of their pasts, and little details that kind of get strung together as we go along. So like I said, it's at a ski resort. You kind of have that locked room feeling, definitely the wintry atmosphere. Very funny, very humorous, a lot of good little twists, just a fun classic but modern take on the murder mystery. So that's a fun one. And then the last one in this mystery thriller category is No Exit by Taylor Adams. It's been several years since I read this one, but I remember that it only took me like 24 hours to read. So this is a great fast-paced one if you want to just read a book really quickly, get out of a reading slump. Here is a little synopsis, and this one's a little on the darker and more disturbing side. A kidnapped little girl locked in a stranger's van. No help for miles. What would you do? Darby Thorne is a college student stranded by a blizzard at a highway rest stop in the middle of nowhere. She's on the way home to see her sick mother. She'll have to spend the night in the rest stop with 4 complete strangers. Then she stumbles across a little girl locked inside one of their parked cars. No cell reception, no telephone, no way out because of the snow, and she doesn't know which one of the other travelers is the kidnapper. Like I said, a little darker themes here. Definitely some gory moments, so if you don't like that, maybe stay away from this one, but very action-packed, fast-paced, intense, like heart racing. I was on the edge of my seat, and that's why I read it so quickly. So we have the blizzard, so definitely a great one to pick up during the winter. High action, tension, deserted, isolated setting. It made me a little anxious, so that may deter you from reading it, but if you do love like a good heart-racing, fast-paced thriller, definitely I would check this one out. So my next category is fantasy. I've probably said this before, but I feel like winter is kind of fantasy time, so I feel like you could pick up any fantasy book really this time of year and it would feel just cozy or atmospheric, and it's just kind of fun to like sink your teeth into a new fantasy novel or series during the winter. But these have specifically wintry kind of vibes. This next one I also haven't read for a couple years, but I thought it was really good. I do need to continue the series. I have not yet, but that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. And this one is like Russian folklore, I believe, and it's more historical fantasy, not like a huge fast-paced kind of plot, more of the atmosphere, characters, folklore, history kind of feel, but definitely a really good one. So here's a little synopsis. At the edge of the Russian wilderness, winter lasts. At the edge of the Russian wilderness, winter lasts most of the year and the snowdrifts grow taller than houses. But Vasilisa, I don't really know how to pronounce the main character's name, sorry. Vasilisa doesn't mind. She spends the winter nights huddled around the embers of a fire with her beloved siblings, listening to her nurse's fairy tales. Above all, she loves the chilling story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon who appears in the frigid night to claim unwary souls. So we have a lot of kind of like dark, evil spirits, creatures of the forest, some mythological fairy tale, fantastical vibes here, and then some kind of bad things happen. Misfortune strikes their village, and there's kind of a bad family situation that Vasilisa is trying to get out of. She is kind of taking things into her own hands, and she's discovering some powers of her own potentially, and going into the woods and the forest to figure out what to do to kind of get out of the toxic situation that she's in at home, and to protect her family from this threat that is coming to their home. I don't want to spoil anything, and I don't remember a ton. If I do continue the series, I probably need to reread the first book. This felt very unique to me. I haven't read a lot of books set in Russia or with like Russian folklore, so I really liked that. Definitely have the cold, wintry vibes here. I remember really enjoying the characters, the setting, the magic, and the writing. Definitely recommend checking this one out. Okay, I finally have a physical book here to show you, and I actually talked about this one in my fall recommendations video, but I had to add it again to the winter recs. I was really recommending the second book, so if you haven't read the series, I would say to check out Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. You're probably sick of me talking about this book, but this one really does feel like a great book to read in the winter. So if you're not familiar with this book, it features Emily Wilde, who is a curmudgeonly scholar at Cambridge University. She is studying fairies and she's working on this encyclopedia, obviously. So she goes to this foreign land that kind of feels like Iceland or Scandinavia. It's very cold and isolated and wintry. She goes there to kind of just discover the local culture, how fairies kind of fit into their folklore, and seeing if she can discover any fairies while she's there. And so her academic rival, Wendell, he shows up and he helps her against her wishes. We have a little bit of a romance. Love the characters, love their romance and banter. It's really great. This is definitely low stakes, cozy fantasy, historical. So again, not a very high stakes, fast paced kind of plot, but if you want just like a cozy, wintry fantasy with some romance to check out this winter, definitely would say that this time of year is a great time to do that. And that's pretty much all I'll say because I've talked about this book a whole lot. The next one is also a book that I've mentioned several times. I read it this year. Well, I read the duology this year and absolutely loved it. This could fit for fall or winter, I think, but specifically this kind of feels more like winter to me. So that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, the first book in a duology. Crooked Kingdom is the second book. And basically it just follows a cast of characters. There are 6 of them. They are recruited to pull off this deadly heist. Casbrecker is the leader of the group. He is this renowned criminal, very morally gray, but he kind of gets this team together and they go off and try to pull off this heist. So this one definitely definitely has higher stakes, more fast-paced kind of feel, along with a really cool magic system that's kind of inspired by like the elements. It's pretty in-depth, so I'm not going to explain it all right now. The reason I think this is good for winter, it's definitely kind of on the darker, grittier side where they start out in Ketterdam, but then as the heist goes on, they kind of travel across this like snowy, icy land, and then they end up in this place that very much is like wintry and icy too. So I think it just has kind of those atmospheric wintry elements of it. I love these characters so much, so attached to them. Love the writing, love the dialogue. I highly recommend checking out this duology if you have not picked it up yet. Okay, and the last one in this fantasy section is another duology that I've read this year. I actually just finished the second book last night. It's very fresh in my mind. I've talked about the first book recently, so I won't spend a ton of time on this, but I wanted to recommend these. And this is another one that kind of could be for fall or winter, or maybe just even that transition. I think it definitely works for winter. So if you are wanting to pick up these books, I'd say just jump into it sometime soon. So that is the Shepherd King duology, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, which I just finished last night. I guess I'll just hold up One Dark Window. So this one takes place in the mist-shrouded Kingdom of Blunder, where magic is forbidden and the mist can infect people with magic, and then they have to kind of hide their magic. But you also have these cards that are allowed to be used. It's the only way that magic is allowed pretty much. And they all have different qualities, different things that they can do. And Elspeth is our main character. She is infected. Her infection is that she has a monster in her head who she calls the Nightmare, and they're constantly talking back and forth. She is paired up with this highwayman and his group of friends who are trying to collect all the cards so that they can cure the mist, get rid of the mist, and cure the magic and the infection in this kingdom. Hopefully that made sense. You would think I would be able to say that plot very cohesively because I just read it. So these books are very atmospheric, very gothic, moody, dark. We have this misty atmosphere. Again, it kind of takes place over fall, but then it goes into winter. And the second book kind of has some more wintry vibes, I feel like. This has a great cast of characters, kind of an ensemble feel, very fast-paced, easy to read quickly, especially if you're wanting to get into fantasy. These are great books to kind of start with, I think. A cool, unique magic system, lots of fun twists and turns. We have like the dark castle setting. It kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones a little bit, actually. They're in these kind of medieval feeling castles, and we have a lot of things with the throne and heirs to the throne, especially in book 2. I also feel like Game of Thrones gives me wintry vibes, and this kind of felt like that. So there's my reason for saying that you should read these in the winter. Okay, my next category is just like general literary contemporary fiction, however you want to refer to that. This next book I have not read in a while, and I don't remember much about it. I just remember that it was a fun little cozy Christmas read, so I'll just read a little bit of this synopsis. And the book is The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. She has a lot of books. I also read The Bookshop on the Corner. They're just kind of like cozy, heartwarming, bookish contemporary fiction books. I think a lot of them are set in Scotland or the UK. This one is about Carmen, who has lost her job. She doesn't want to move in with her perfect sister Sophia in Sophia's perfect house with her perfect children and her perfectly ordered Edinburgh life. But Sophia has another baby on the way, a mother desperate to see her daughters get along, and a client who needs a retail assistant for his ailing bookshop. So welcoming Carmen might still have some benefits for everyone. So Carmen is thrown into this old bookshop to kind of help run, and then she also meets someone. There's actually a bit of a love triangle in this, which I'm usually not a fan of, but I don't think it really bothered me in this book. That was an element of it though, in case you like hate love triangles. So there's definitely some romance, bookish vibes, family themes. It takes place in Edinburgh over Christmas, so we have that just kind of heartwarming, magical Christmas setting. Definitely kind of like on the Hallmark side of books, but I love just any book that takes place in Scotland. Very cozy, cute, nothing too mind-blowing, but I really liked the family themes and the sisterhood elements and just this character trying to kind of find her way in life. And then the next one I've talked about, this is one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite books from her. That is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. So this is historical fiction set in Alaska in the 1970s, post-Vietnam War, and it follows this family who they relocate to Alaska. They're like out in the middle of nowhere. The father was in the Vietnam War and he comes home with a lot of PTSD struggles like that. He takes it out on his wife. So there are definitely some themes of domestic abuse in this and like addiction, not a lighthearted novel by any means. So it follows Lenny, who I think she's 13 when this book starts. She's kind of caught in the middle, wanting to protect her mom, but her mom doesn't want to leave her father, even though he is abusive. And so they're kind of just isolated, like out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, trying to survive in this really cold, frigid atmosphere. As Kristen Hanna tends to do, it's just kind of this sweeping story that follows these characters over a long span of time, covers a lot of themes, a lot of emotions, a lot of trauma for sure, but really well done overall. If you're looking for a good historical fiction to dig into this winter, this would be my top recommendation. Okay, this last one in this category, you're probably so sick of me talking about these books, so I'm going to go really quickly because I've talked about them so much lately. So Beartown by Frederick Bachman, I couldn't leave it out because like it's a hockey town, it's cold, it's in Sweden. I'm just saying, if you haven't read this, read it this winter, okay? I don't even know if I need to give a synopsis, but it's about this small town called Beartown. They are just trying to get by. Their hockey team really is what keeps them going. There's a lot of pressure on these boys on this hockey team, and their semifinals are about to take place when a really traumatic and tragic event happens to this young girl in the town. Things just kind of spiral from there, and we have a lot of different characters, a lot of different storylines, a lot of different themes and topics covered here. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this definitely covers themes of sexual assault and like rape culture, so just be aware of that going into this. I'll say it again, I just love this author, love his writing, love the characters. This is the first book in a trilogy, so if you're looking for a wintry kind of series to get into that's not fantasy, this is a great option for that. And I'm about to read the third book, so I will be reading along with you if you decide to pick it up this winter. Okay, I have two more, and these are both classics, so I probably don't need to tell you a whole lot about them. You've probably read them or heard of them, but if not, I thought I would mention them. So the first one is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I read this last year, I think, for my in-person book club. Probably most of you have seen some sort of adaptation of it. I personally love The Muppet Christmas Carol, and I've seen like live plays of it as well. It's just a true classic story that really encapsulates the meaning of Christmas. If you don't know, it's about Ebenezer Scrooge, who is this kind of greedy, miserly man, and on Christmas Eve, I believe, he is approached by the ghosts of Christmas past, and he's kind of taken along this journey. I guess it's Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future, and it really kind of like sobers him and makes him stop to think about his life and his priorities, how he's spending his time and his money. He definitely starts out very unlikable, but he grows a lot, and it just kind of reminds you of the meaning of Christmas. Kind of has a heartwarming feel with some darker and like fantastical, supernatural vibes, I guess. Just a true classic, and this is kind of a fun one to listen to on audiobook. I don't remember which audiobook edition I listened to, but I'm sure you could find a lot of good ones out there that are kind of more like dramatized, so definitely check that one out. And then the last one is one of my childhood favorite books, and that is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, otherwise known as Narnia. So this is the first book in the Chronicles of Narnia, and there are 7 books in the series. They're all on my shelf behind me here. You can't see them all probably. I guess these are middle grade or young adult. I don't actually know what they're classified as. They're obviously quite short. You probably have either seen the movie, read the books, listened to the audiobook, or are familiar with the story. So we follow this group of 4 siblings who happen upon this wardrobe. They go into it and it takes them to this world of Narnia where it is very cold, very snowy, always winter, never Christmas. They encounter the White Witch, who is basically the classic villain in this. They are in this secret magical world, and then when they come back, it's like no time has passed at all. So definitely like that portal fantasy feel. And then they realize there's a lot more going on that they get involved in, and the stakes are pretty high as we go on in the series. Just such a great classic. I honestly want to reread it. It's been a while. It's a great one. And those are all my wintry / holiday recs. Let me know as always if you have read any of these or if you are going to put any of them on your TBR, and also let me know your winter recommendations as well, because I'm always looking for new ones. I'm kind of in a Christmas romance mood. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!